Late in October, a cold wind blew through the quiet streets of Lakewood. Most houses had warm lights on, and families were settling down for the evening. On a lonely street, a woman named Catherine walked outside to set her trash at the edge of the sidewalk. She felt tired from her day and hoped to get back inside soon. As she moved the trash can, she spotted a small figure shaking on the ground. She stopped, not sure what it was. At first, she thought it might be a cat or some wild animal. But when she came closer, she saw a thin dog with dirty fur and very sad eyes. The dog trembled in the cold and looked too weak to even lift its head. Catherine felt a stab of pity. The dog wore a loose metal collar attached to a piece of rope that seemed cut. Its fur was tangled, and one paw looked swollen. The dog stayed silent, staring up with a mix of fear and defeat. Catherine spoke softly, hoping not to scare it. The dog did not run. It seemed too weak to move. Catherine hurried inside her house and came back with an old blanket, wrapping it around the dog in an attempt to warm it. At first, the dog flinched but then relaxed, as if it knew she meant no harm. Although it still shivered, its breathing slowed a bit, like it felt some small relief. Seeing how frail the dog was, Catherine guessed it had not felt kindness in a long time. She gently stroked its head, noticing how the dog's eyes looked half-closed, showing hunger, pain, and sheer exhaustion. Catherine tried calling the local animal shelter, but no one answered. Feeling worried, she called the non-emergency number for the Lakewood police. She explained she had found a weak dog with a cut rope around its neck. The person on the phone said an officer would be sent over. While she waited, Catherine stayed beside the dog, speaking in a calm voice to keep it from panicking. She wondered when it had last eaten, seeing how thin it was. She felt unsure how to help its swollen paw, or whether she should feed it right away. A short time later, a police car arrived. The officer introduced himself as Officer Hayes. He looked at the dog and shook his head. After hearing Catherine's story, he crouched down to inspect the cut rope on the collar. He said it looked like someone might have tied the dog up and then abandoned it. Catherine felt both anger and sadness. She could not believe anyone would do something so cruel. Officer Hayes asked if she had noticed anything strange earlier, or if she recognized the dog, but she did not. All she knew was that she found it during her usual nightly routine. Officer Hayes took some notes, then said they would likely need a local rescue group or a vet to examine the dog. He also mentioned that leaving an animal in this state could be considered neglect or even cruelty by law. The rope, the filthy fur, and the swollen paw were all signs this was not a simple stray. Catherine felt a little relief that the officer was taking it seriously. She hoped someone with the right skills would come soon. Even though she worried for the dog's health, a small flicker of hope grew in her mind. She thought of the dog as Luna now, grateful it had been found in time. If this was part of a bigger problem, maybe finding Luna would lead to more answers. As the night grew colder, Catherine stayed near the dog, wondering if it would make it through until morning. The dog seemed fragile, but at least it was no longer alone. That comfort gave Catherine a sense of purpose. Something in her life had changed. She had saved a defenseless creature, one that might point to an even darker issue in her own town. And this was only the first step of a story that would soon grow far beyond this cold October night. By the time Officer Hayes left, it was almost midnight. Catherine felt the chill in the air grow stronger. She worried about Luna, who lay still under the blanket, eyes partly closed. Every so often, the dog gave a small whimper, as if in pain. Catherine gently patted Luna's head, unsure how else to help. She sat on her porch, phone in hand, wondering if she should try the animal shelter's number again. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was a volunteer from a local rescue group. Officer Hayes had passed along Catherine's details, and the volunteer, whose name was Maria, said she could come right away to check on Luna. Catherine felt her tense shoulders relax. She was relieved that help was on the way. About half an hour later, Maria arrived with a simple pet carrier, some bandages, and a friendly smile. She had experience with hurt animals and promised to do everything she could. As soon as Maria saw Luna's condition, her eyes filled with concern. "Poor thing," Maria said, kneeling down next to Catherine. She ran her hands over Luna's body very gently, checking for any wounds or signs of injury beyond the swollen paw. Catherine watched, thankful that someone skilled was there to help. Maria gave Luna a few soft words of comfort, and the dog blinked, too weak to resist or show fear. Maria then asked Catherine a few questions. Had she noticed any marks on the rope? Had the dog eaten or had any water? Catherine explained that she had not fed Luna yet because she was worried about upsetting its stomach. She also pointed out the rope that looked like it had been cut with something sharp. Maria took pictures of the rope and the collar, saying this could help if police opened a cruelty case. After a quick exam, Maria carefully lifted Luna and placed the dog inside the carrier. Luna let out a tiny whine but did not struggle. It was as if she understood they were trying to help. Maria mentioned a 24-hour veterinary clinic about 15 minutes away, where they could take Luna for emergency care. Catherine felt a wave of relief, yet also a twinge of sadness. She had grown attached to the dog in just a few hours, and now she feared for Luna's future. Before they left, Catherine asked if there was anything more she could do. Maria suggested Catherine visit the clinic in the morning after Luna had been checked by a vet. She also said Catherine could donate to cover some of the medical bills if she wished. Catherine agreed, and Maria thanked her for acting so quickly when she found the dog. When Maria drove off, Catherine stood on the porch, gazing at the empty spot where Luna had been. The blanket still lay crumpled on the ground. She picked it up and held it in her arms, thinking about how frightened and cold Luna must have been. She felt a strong urge to do more, to make sure Luna would never be hurt again. That night, sleep came slowly. Images of Luna's tired eyes filled Catherine's mind. She also recalled the officer's words about someone possibly tying the dog up and leaving it behind. Questions circled around her thoughts. Who could have done that? Were there more dogs in danger? Catherine had lived in Lakewood for years and never imagined such cruelty could happen in her own neighbourhood. Morning brought a grey sky and a steady breeze. As soon as she was up, Catherine tried calling the Rescue Group S number. They said Luna was at the vet's clinic, so she hurried to get dressed, grabbed her car keys and drove there. Along the way, she noticed how normal everything seemed, people walking their dogs, kids waiting for school buses, neighbours going about their day. It felt surreal, knowing that somewhere out there someone had left Luna to suffer. When Catherine arrived at the clinic, she found Maria in the waiting area. Maria explained that the vet was running some tests on Luna and checking the dog's leg for infection. She invited Catherine to sit with her and wait for an update. Catherine agreed, feeling both anxious and hopeful. Minutes stretched into nearly an hour. At last, a vet technician walked out to speak with them. Luna had several minor cuts, fleas, and a possible infection in the swollen paw. She was also underweight and dehydrated. For now, they would give her fluids, clean her wounds, and keep her overnight for observation. Hearing this, Catherine felt a little hopeful. At least the dog was alive and getting care. Maria placed a comforting hand on Catherine's shoulder and said they could visit Luna once the vet was finished. Catherine nodded gratefully. In the span of less than a day, she had gone from finding a weak dog on her curb to sitting in a vet clinic, anxiously awaiting news. She knew that, in some ways, this was only the beginning. If Luna's case did point to a bigger cruelty problem, there would be many more steps ahead. But for now, Catherine focused on one simple fact. Luna was safe and in caring hands. She resolved, right then, to stay involved, no matter how long it took. The idea of someone harming dogs in her hometown angered her, and she wanted to do whatever she could to protect any others. She also realized she felt a deep connection to Luna. Something about that dog's quiet strength gave Catherine a new sense of purpose. She said a silent promise to Luna. She would help this dog heal, and she would not let the person responsible get away without answering for their actions. And so, as Catherine waited for the vet's final word, she braced herself for the journey ahead, not knowing just how much it would change her life. Catherine sat in a small waiting room at the vet clinic, feeling a mixture of relief and worry. She was glad Luna was getting the care she needed, but anxious to hear more details. Maria, the rescue volunteer, sat beside her, occasionally checking her phone for updates. Time seemed to pass slowly. After a while, a vet assistant walked over. She said Luna was resting and that the vet would come by soon to explain the next steps. Catherine nodded, thanking her. She quietly hoped Luna would not have to suffer any more setbacks. She also wondered if there was any news from Officer Hayes about who might have harmed Luna or if there were other dogs in danger. When the vet finally appeared, he carried a clipboard with notes on Luna's condition. He explained that Luna's paw was infected and would need special treatment. She was also very underweight, which meant they would have to be careful with her diet so she did not get sick from eating too much too fast. Catherine listened closely, asking how she could help. Maria spoke up and said the rescue group could arrange a foster home once Luna was stable. She looked at Catherine with a small smile and asked, "Would you be interested in helping foster her?" Catherine felt her heart jump. She had never fostered an animal before, but the thought of leaving Luna to someone else made her uneasy. She already felt a strong bond with the dog. Still, Catherine was not sure she had the experience all the time. She voiced her concerns, and Maria reassured her that the rescue group would guide her through the process. They would provide food, medical supplies, and advice. All Catherine needed was a safe space and a willingness to care for Luna. "I'll do it," Catherine finally said, her voice trembling with both nerves and excitement. The vet nodded, pleased that Luna would have a caring foster. He added that Luna might have to stay at the clinic for a few days while they treated her paw. During that time, Catherine could visit and learn how to change bandages or give any needed medication. It felt like a big responsibility, but Catherine knew she wanted to help. Later that day, Maria and Catherine spoke outside the clinic. Maria mentioned that the rescue group often faced high costs from vet bills, especially with animals who needed lots of treatment. She asked if Catherine would be willing to spread the word, maybe share Luna's story with friends or on social media. Catherine agreed, promising to do whatever she could. "If you want to follow Luna's progress and help us save more animals like her, please subscribe to our online updates," Maria said gently. She explained that people's support and donations made a huge difference. Catherine thought about how she used to scroll through social media without giving much thought to rescue pages. Now, it felt personal. A few days passed, and Luna grew stronger at the clinic. Catherine visited whenever she could, bringing soft blankets and talking to Luna in a kind voice. The dog would wag her tail slightly when she heard Catherine's voice, though she was still weak. It felt good to see small signs of hope. The vet said Luna's infection was responding to treatment and she was gaining a bit of weight. During one visit, Catherine received a call from Officer Hayes. He told her they were looking into potential leads about people who might have been involved in leaving dogs like Luna. He mentioned that a neighbour had come forward with a tip, describing a suspicious van seen late at night. While nothing was certain yet, it gave Catherine a spark of hope that whoever did this might be held accountable. She thanked Officer Hayes for the update and hung up, feeling determined to see justice done. That evening, Catherine sat at home, scrolling through pictures she had taken of Luna at the clinic. She decided to post one on her social media page, along with a short description of what had happened. Within an hour, people from her neighbourhood and even from other towns started leaving comments. Some offered to donate money for vet bills. Others asked how they could help. Catherine felt encouraged by the outpouring of support. She also messaged Maria to let her know about the positive reaction. Maria suggested organising a small fundraiser online where people could chip in to cover the cost of Luna's care. Catherine thought that was a great idea. She realised how many good people were ready to help, as long as they knew what was happening. All of this made Catherine feel more hopeful than she had in days. Yes, Luna had been through a terrible ordeal, but now she had a growing community of people who wanted her to heal and thrive. Catherine thought about the day Luna would finally leave the vet clinic and come stay at her house, even if just as a foster. It gave her a sense of purpose, something more meaningful than her usual routines. And so, as Catherine prepared for Luna's next steps, she braced herself for both the challenges and joys ahead. Little did she know that her life and Luna's were about to intertwine even more deeply, revealing just how powerful a single act of kindness could become. A week after Luna's rescue, the day finally came for her to leave the vet clinic. Catherine arrived early, feeling both excited and nervous. She had spent the past few days preparing a quiet corner of her living room, complete with soft blankets, a few chew toys, and a small bed that a neighbour had donated. She hoped it would be a cozy space for Luna to heal. Maria met her at the clinic's front desk. Together, they listened as the vet gave them final instructions on how to care for Luna at home. He explained that Luna still needed medicine for her paw infection and a careful feeding schedule. Too much food at once could upset her stomach, so Catherine would need to feed her small amounts several times a day. Catherine nodded, taking notes to make sure she remembered everything. When the vet brought Luna out, Catherine noticed the dog seemed a bit more alert. She wagged her tail gently upon seeing Catherine, which filled Catherine's heart with warmth. Even Maria smiled and said, "She recognizes you." Catherine carefully took hold of Luna's leash, feeling grateful that the dog had made progress in such a short time. The ride home was quiet. Luna lay on a blanket in the back seat of Catherine's car, occasionally peeking out the window. Catherine played soft music, hoping it would help the dog relax. She glanced in the mirror every so often, reassuring Luna with a gentle voice. Despite the improvement, Luna still looked fragile, and Catherine reminded herself to be patient. At home, Catherine led Luna to her prepared resting spot. The dog sniffed around a bit, then lowered herself onto the new bed as if testing its softness. Catherine set down a small bowl of water and a light meal. Luna ate slowly, pausing to glance around with watchful eyes. Catherine guessed it would take time for Luna to feel fully safe in any new place. Over the next few days, Catherine followed the vet's instructions carefully. She cleaned and bandaged Luna's paw, speaking soothing words when the dog seemed uncomfortable. Each time she did it, Luna would look at her with trust, as though she understood Catherine was trying to help. Bit by bit, the dog's wounds started to show signs of healing. Meanwhile, word about Luna's situation had spread. Maria's rescue group had posted updates online, and more people began to donate to cover the vet bills. Catherine was moved by the kindness of strangers. Some offered to send blankets or dog toys. Others simply wrote messages of encouragement. Catherine realized how many caring individuals existed, and it gave her hope that Luna's story could make a difference. Officer Hayes also stayed in touch. He called Catherine one evening to say they were following leads about a property on the outskirts of town, where someone might have been keeping several dogs in poor conditions. Although details were still unclear, he thought Luna's case could help build a stronger investigation. Catherine felt a wave of determination. She wanted to see justice done, not only for Luna, but for any other animals that might be suffering. One afternoon, Catherine was in the yard with Luna, letting her explore a little under supervision. As she watched the dog sniff the grass and look up at the sky, she marveled at how simple the moment was. Just a short time ago, Luna had been found shaking and weak at the curb, abandoned in the cold. Now, she had a safe place to rest and recover. Even so, challenges remained. Luna still startled easily if there was a sudden noise, and Catherine noticed she sometimes cowered at quick hand movements. It was clear something in her past had taught her to be afraid. Catherine tried to move slowly and speak softly, showing Luna that she was never going to be hit or yelled at. Each day, the dog's tail seemed to wag a little more often, a sign that trust was growing. Late one evening, after Luna had fallen asleep, Catherine scrolled through her phone, checking the rescue group's latest posts. She found pictures of other animals they had saved, each one with a hopeful story. She felt proud to be a part of it, even if her role was small. A message from Maria popped up saying they had received a big donation that would cover most of Luna's remaining medical costs. Catherine smiled, feeling her eyes grow misty. So many people had come together to help a dog they had never met. That night, Catherine lay in bed thinking about how far Luna had come and how much farther they both had to go. She also remembered Officer Hayes' call about the property. A part of her worried that those responsible might still be hurting other dogs. But another part of her felt a stronger sense of purpose than she had ever known. If Luna's rescue could lead to a bigger change, she was ready to do her part. She told herself that each day was a step forward. Each act of kindness, each donation, each bit of progress in Luna's healing brought them closer to uncovering the truth. And with that thought, Catherine drifted off to sleep, comforted by the quiet sounds of Luna breathing peacefully in the next room. Late in the afternoon, Catherine found herself tidying up around her living room while Luna rested on her soft bed. The dog seemed calmer each day, and her paw was healing well, though she still limped a bit when she walked. Catherine felt proud of how much progress Luna had made in such a short time. A knock at the door surprised her. When she opened it, she saw Officer Hayes. He stood on the porch with a polite smile, a folder in one hand. Catherine's heart skipped a beat, worried he might have bad news. Instead, he greeted her kindly and asked how Luna was doing. She relaxed a little and invited him inside. Luna lifted her head at the sound of a visitor but did not seem afraid. She watched Officer Hayes closely as he approached. He crouched down, letting her sniff his hand, and then gently patted her head. Catherine noticed that Luna did not flinch this time. It was a sign of growing trust. Officer Hayes cleared his throat, then opened the folder. He explained they had found evidence of a small dog breeding operation on the edge of Lakewood. Several animals were discovered in cramped cages, many of them appearing sick or injured. He believed this could be tied to Luna's case, though they could not be certain unless more facts came to light. Catherine's stomach clenched at the idea of other dogs suffering in the same way Luna once did. He continued, saying that any information Catherine had, such as details about Luna's rope or collar, might help build a larger case against the people responsible. Catherine told him everything she remembered, how the rope looked cut, how thin and dirty Luna had been, and how her paw was badly infected. Officer Hayes wrote down notes carefully. Just before he left, Officer Hayes said he would keep Catherine updated if they learned anything that might relate to Luna's situation. She thanked him, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. It was good to know the police were making progress, but she worried about the dogs they had already found. Would they get the care they needed? How many more might be out there, waiting for help? That evening, Catherine texted Maria to share what Officer Hayes had told her. Maria responded that the rescue group was ready to assist any dogs the police managed to save. She also said they had already taken in 2 dogs from that property. One was badly injured, and the other was severely underweight. Catherine felt a surge of anger at the thought of more animals suffering. At the same time, she was grateful for people like Maria, who worked so hard to save them. Luna seemed to pick up on Catherine's mood. She leaned her head on Catherine's leg, as if offering comfort. Catherine gently stroked Luna's ears, reminding herself that at least one dog was safe now. A spark of hope flickered in her mind. Maybe, with enough effort, they could free every dog caught in such terrible situations. In the days that followed, Catherine and Luna settled into a routine. Each morning, Catherine would check Luna's paw, give her medicine, and feed her a small meal. They would then sit on the porch for a bit, where Luna could sniff the air and watch the birds. It was a peaceful moment they both seemed to enjoy. Catherine sometimes posted updates online about Luna's improvement, and the support from friends and strangers continued to pour in. One afternoon, Maria called to ask if Catherine would be willing to foster another dog from that same property. Catherine felt torn. She wanted to help, but she was still learning how to care for Luna's special needs. Maria understood and told her there was no pressure. The fact that Catherine was already fostering one dog was a big help. Still, the request stuck in Catherine's mind. She wondered if she could offer a temporary home to another animal in need. As the sun began to set, Catherine sat on her living room floor next to Luna, brushing the dog's fur to remove any tangles. She thought about the path her life had taken ever since she found Luna that cold October night, everything had changed. She had discovered a community of animal lovers, found a new sense of purpose, and even seen parts of her town she never knew existed. Luna's presence brought a softness to the house, a feeling that something good had come from a bad situation. A soft light filled the living room, and the world outside grew quiet. Catherine took a moment to reflect on the people who had helped her and Luna get this far. Officer Hayes, Maria, the vet, and even strangers online who had donated or sent messages of support. It reminded her that in times of darkness, kindness can appear from unexpected places. She gently set aside the brush and patted Luna's head. In a voice no louder than a whisper, Catherine promised she would never stop trying to help. If anyone else was suffering the way Luna had, she wanted to be part of the solution. The road ahead might be long, but she had hope that step by step, person by person, dog by dog, they could make a difference. With that thought, she felt her chest grow lighter. She looked down at Luna, whose eyes seemed full of calm acceptance. They had come a long way together, and there was still more to do. Catherine smiled, certain that with a little bit of help from the community, and maybe one more push to get more people involved, change could happen. A few weeks later, Catherine found herself driving to the police station. She felt both nervous and hopeful. Officer Hayes had called, asking her to come in for a quick update about the investigation. As she parked her car, she reminded herself that Luna was safe at home, resting comfortably. The dog's paw had mostly healed, and her coat looked shinier each day. Inside the station, Officer Hayes greeted her with a friendly nod and asked her to sit down. He explained that the police had gathered enough evidence to charge several people involved in the dog breeding operation outside Lakewood. Thanks to tips from the community and details from rescue volunteers like Maria, they had rescued more dogs from bad conditions. Catherine let out a breath of relief. Though it pained her to think of those dogs suffering, she felt grateful they were no longer in danger. Officer Hayes then told her they might need her statement in court if the defense questioned how Luna was found. Catherine agreed without hesitation. She wanted to speak up for Luna, to let the world know about the cruelty she had seen. Before she left, Officer Hayes thanked her for her courage. She walked out of the station feeling a wave of pride. One person really could make a difference. When Catherine got home, Luna greeted her by wagging her tail and nuzzling Catherine's hand. The once weak dog now walked more steadily, even though she still had a slight limp. Catherine fed her a small meal, then sank onto the couch to rest. She thought about all the events that had led to this moment. Finding Luna on that cold night, meeting Maria, the visits to the vet, the investigation, and now the charges against the people who had caused so much harm. Later in the week, Maria stopped by with some good news. A few of the rescued dogs had recovered enough to be placed in foster homes. One of them, a shy black and white puppy, had even found a permanent family. Maria asked if Catherine had decided whether she would adopt Luna. The question made Catherine's heart skip a beat. She had grown so attached to Luna, but she had never officially decided. At the same time, the thought of letting Luna go felt impossible. That evening, Catherine sat on the floor next to Luna's bed, stroking the dog's fur. Luna looked at her with warm, trusting eyes, something Catherine would not have imagined just a few weeks ago. She remembered how frightened Luna had been, and how it took so much gentle care to rebuild the dog's trust in people. Now, Luna was a part of her daily life, a calm presence that reminded her of hope and second chances. Catherine picked up her phone and took a picture of Luna. Then she posted it online with a short message. When I found Luna, she was weak and hurt. Today she's standing strong, and I'm proud to share that I'm officially adopting her. To everyone who has followed her journey and offered support, thank you. If you want to help more dogs like Luna, please consider supporting your local rescue, donating, and subscribing to the Group S updates. Together, we can make a big difference. Almost at once, her post began to fill with comments. People congratulated her and Luna, sharing their own stories of rescue. Some promised to donate to Maria's organization. Others simply left kind words of encouragement. Catherine felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She never expected so many people to care. A couple of days later, Officer Hayes called again to say the investigation was moving forward and the suspects would face a court hearing soon. Catherine was ready to stand by Luna's side and offer her testimony. She believed that if the law recognized animal cruelty as a serious crime, more animals could be saved from the same fate Luna had suffered. The court date was set for the following month, giving Catherine time to prepare herself for the process.